Disclaimer. Hello and welcome to Two Therapists and a Microphone. I am Dr. Harrison Davis.
And I'm Dr. Aisha Dickerson.
Two Therapists and a Microphone is a show about mental health, relationships, and social issues that personally affect you. And we broadcast live every Monday evening at 7 o'clock p.m.
We are two licensed psychotherapists with decades of clinical experience, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear about situations or dilemmas that you're going through. So please send us your questions by visiting our website, www.twotherapist.com, and click on Ask Two Therapists at the top of the page. In fact, next week, we're going to be moving into February, and some of y'all might be having dating issues. So, anyone who has questions about the current relationships they're in or relationships they want to be in, I want to encourage you to submit your question at twotherapist.com. We'll have another therapist on to join us, and we'll see how we can help you.
I think it's wonderful to actually listen to people who are trained to provide you with some guidance. And today, you guys can participate. You can put it in the chat, within Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And I want to give you guys our text number that you can text, and I can actually send you the link to join the program if you dare. Our phone number text is 404 913 1636. That's 404 913 1636. Go ahead and send us a text if you want to talk about our topic today. But first, I want to ask Aisha, how was your weekend this weekend?
My weekend was, I don't want to call it boring, but remember I told you I was trying a little bit of everything, and I've just continued to try. I'm learning what I'm good at and what I need to let go. So
Okay.
that's
It
it.
doesn't sound boring.
But some of it was painful. Some of it I tried and I didn't do what I was supposed to do because a lot of people don't know this about me, but I have issues following directions sometimes. I just want to jump out and do things the way I want to do them. So that's not always the best way to do things when you're trying something new.
It
So,
makes it exciting though, but I get you. Sometimes you got to step back and know what you're getting into.
mhm.
And I like having an instructor. Sometimes.
I have instructors. I just, if they take too long to explain, it's like, okay, I got it.
Oh no, that ain't me.
Yeah.
No. When I went whitewater rafting a few years ago, and I can't swim by the way, and the Ocoee River, the upper and the lower, it was thrilling, it was fun, but I did whatever that instructor told us to do.
Mm,
And I had my life jacket on too. So I hear you on that. But keep doing your thing then,
thank
the new
you.
stuff you want to do. So
Yeah.
my weekend,
Hmm.
it was good. It was sobering a little bit.
Sobering.
Yeah. I was excited about the football games, the
Okay.
playoffs to see who's going to make it to the Super Bowl. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think
Oh,
it's
so
going to
that's
be,
what it's gonna be. I've
yep.
gotten a little off track. It's
I think
like,
it's going to be an exciting game.
okay,
I enjoyed watching the game. Some little controversy with the Kansas City Bengals game and the referees, but that's all part of the game.
I
You
need to look
know,
that up. I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
However, I was distracted this past weekend
Hmm.
by talk of the video
Okay.
of the Memphis police officers beating Tyre Nichols.
Mhm.
And as you know, this weekend is when, this past week rather, the five officers were arrested. Tyree Nichols was driving in his car, and there's some dispute. Things are the reality of what happened is in dispute. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
And
I was
why
like,
the and why the officers pulled him over, but in
okay.
the end, they ended up beating him senselessly, and he died, I believe, 3 days later. And so there was a lot of talk about it before they released the video, and I said I didn't want to watch it.
Well, I
I
was
didn't want
just
to.
about to ask you that. Like, did you watch it? Because I think you and I have talked about the videos and racial trauma and that for years now.
Yep.
Before it was, I mean, it's always being
Before
big.
George
But
Floyd. Yep.
right, right. So I made a conscious decision maybe a couple of years ago that I just couldn't watch it
Same
anymore.
here.
And I think the last one I watched, there was a teenage girl, and she didn't die, but there was a teenage girl that was beat up by a resource officer. And
Mm,
that, me having a teenager her exact same age, hit me so bad. Like I was hysterical. I was like, okay, well, that's the end. I can't watch those anymore.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think I remember that one too. And the George Floyd and the insurrection,
mhm.
at the US Capitol, and people are dead. I made that conscious decision too to stop watching news for a while. I've jumped
Yeah.
back in since the political season, and Georgia elected a new senator. Um, but I said I was going to watch it, but people kept talking about it, and then people suggested that we make that the topic for tonight's show. As
Okay.
I'm listening to more and more people are questioning a lot of things about it. And in Memphis, and the police officers, I'm amazed that they arrested them so soon. And I
Are
heard about,
you?
yes, because think
I'm
about
just
George
saying.
Floyd.
Uh-huh.
When did those police officers get arrested?
I
You
mean,
know,
a while, but I can think of a really big difference between these five and the ones
I
that
agree.
were involved in the George Floyd murder.
So I didn't want it to mess up my weekend,
Hmm.
and it kept popping up in my head watching news. Some
Hmm.
clips of it, you can't avoid it. I like to get online to read blogs and stuff, but I watched it about an hour and a half ago.
The video.
The video
Oh, Harrison.
is, well, we were going to talk about it.
Okay, okay.
I gotta-
I knew we were gonna talk about it, but I didn't go watch. I'm just not. I can't watch
yeah,
the
we're going
video.
to
I
talk about the
cannot
trauma and
do it.
everything. Let me tell you, in the audience out there, it is as bad as people have described it.
I
I
have my brain spotting wand up here. Let me know if you need to do some brain spotting later. Now that you've
I'm
watched
okay
the
now,
video.
but I had
Okay.
to. I watched all of it too, and they have four different cameras. Each police officer had their own little body cam, and then somebody had a security cam on a house or something, and it had a big wide view. They beat the crap out of him, and there's no evidence to support their claim that he was driving recklessly. Um, and throughout the video, he appeared to be complying, and they just stopped them, yanked them out of the car. The brutality of the blows, the language, and he kept asking, "What did I do? What did I do?" And he said, "All right, you guys are doing a lot." And he was trying to lay down. They kept beating him, and at one point, he looked like he was running for his life. He was running from people who were trying to kill him, and he knew that. And they found them, and they beat the crap out. They took turns beating the crap out of him. And then I saw the scene where he yelled out for his mom.
Hmm.
I was like, oh my God, this is reminiscing of George Floyd.
Hmm.
Coincidentally, he was about 100 yards from his mom's house,
Hmm.
yelling out for help, so that people can stop these police officers from attacking him. It was brutal. It was brutal. The language was bad. He looked scared. He looked like a little kid. He's a little skinny guy, 155
I did
pounds.
that he was slim.
Yeah, I mean, they tore him up like a rag doll. And so I watched it. It was difficult. And now I understand why, how other people are reacting to it, and the trauma that is causing. I have to face it if I'm going to talk about it on this show, and with some of my clients and friends and colleagues too. So I decided to watch it. It was brutal. it was bad, and to watch how they mistreated him. So tonight, I wanted us to talk about, what you know about the story, Aisha,
Mhm,
and then how do we handle, once again, another black man dead at the hands of police officers, another black person, and how do we handle these scenes or just the news
mhm.
of police officers targeting us? And if
Yeah.
you watch it, how do you deal with that?
Well, so as anyone who's watched this show knows, I don't watch the news. I have cable, and I don't do it. I actually only saw as much as I did about what happened when I went to NBC to find out or to confirm that Michael B. Jordan was going to be on SNL. That's the only reason I was going to be watching network television.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the truth. I don't watch network television. So I saw it, and Marie has a question here. How do you feel about it being five black officers to this black innocent black man? That was the first thing that I noticed. So it's already disheartening that it happened, right? And
Yeah.
we could say police brutality, but I think often people have attributed police brutality to white police officers and black victims. In this case, it was five black men. Even with George Floyd, there was one who was maybe biracial and one who
Yep.
was
That's correct.
Asian or something
And
like
the other
that.
one's Asian. Yep.
These were five all the way brown skinned black men, like as far as I could tell, unless there's an issue with my bias and my sight, they were African American men. So
They were
y-
Negroes.
exactly, and there's the first thing when people ask the question about, or rather you just asked the question, you were surprised, or you said you were surprised that they were arrested so quickly.
Yeah, I
I'm
am.
not. It's five black men who apparently forgot that they were Negro in the South. Now, I was born and raised, in case you can't tell, in case you have never heard or noticed that I have a Southern accent, born and raised in Alabama, and I've lived nowhere but Alabama and Georgia. And as
I'm
much
Southern too.
as as much as I want to believe that things have changed, some things have gotten better, I never forget that I'm a Negro in the South. Maybe, but Atlanta metro area, black Mecca, cool. But whenever I'm going through certain parts of Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky,
Yeah, but like I
Mississippi,
told
Florida.
some friends of mine, I grew up in Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta. I'm a Southern boy. I love the
Mhm.
South. I don't want to live anywhere else. However, when you leave Atlanta, your ass is in Georgia. When
Exactly.
you leave the suburbs, that's not Atlanta anymore.
Mm-mm.
So there's no difference between rural Georgia and I would say rural Alabama or Tennessee or in South Carolina. They're all the same. Atlanta's just like a little island right in the middle of this
Mhm.
thing here. But sorry to interrupt you.
No, no, it's fine because it's Memphis, Tennessee. That's where this was, right?
Yes.
And so I have always said that Memphis was the Montgomery of Tennessee. I'm from Montgomery, Alabama, and we have this whole, it's almost country, a tad bit hood,
Yep. Yep.
but they've got some educated people, but
Parts of Atlanta's like that. Yep.
right, but but we're no punks, not in Montgomery and not in Memphis. So you just never know what you're gonna get. So here's another thing that I found out yesterday because you said, what have I heard about it?
Yep.
It's important to note that I am in a Greek letter organization. And so within the first hour of me hearing about it, what I found out was that three of the men were members of, I won't say the fraternity just
Let's just
for
say a black fraternity.
right, of a black fraternity, all members of the same black fraternity, particularly one that has been known for their large amounts of hazing.
Okay.
Um,
I
and
think all of them haze, but but
well, that's debatable. That's debatable.
okay.
But hazing's not a thing anymore, right? So,
But it is remarkable, that these are five black police officers, and
mhm,
then to learn, like you, as I was avoiding the video, I just saw the article that some of them had pledged and joined a black fraternity,
mhm,
worked their way through college to get degrees, to only go out there and beat this black man like he wasn't worth a dime. That is remarkable based on what you and I know about black fraternities. I never pledged anything, but I respect them. I see what they're doing. It just wasn't for me. But it is remarkable, this turn from what you and I both know about black fraternities and sororities, and its focus on the black community,
Right.
black self-improvement,
Service and
service, the black
brotherhood,
community.
sisterhood,
That
helping
was
one another.
remarkable.
Yeah. But one of them, reports said, had already had reports of hazing at the school,
Okay,
at the university where he went to school.
gotcha.
So he already had a history of doing too much, is the way I'll say it.
He was crunk.
Doing like you're doing too much. And like, although I haven't watched the video, from what you said, it sounds like they were doing too much. It went from doing a little bit too much to way too much to it's just got
Tyree
way out of
Nichols
control.
made that
Ridiculous.
statement. You guys are doing too much, as he was lying on the ground and they were punching and kicking him. And one of them was holding him by the arm and telling him to lay down. He said, I can't, because he was holding him in a position where
Hmm.
he could not lay down. So, but to answer your question, Marie Jones, thank you for that question. How do we feel about the fact that it's 5 black officers that did this to this innocent black man? I have been told, and counseling a few police officers over the years, that blue uniform, that shield, supersedes race, community, socioeconomic status for some of them. And
Yeah.
then when they put on their uniform, they are part of their brotherhood.
Hmm.
And they go along with that brotherhood because that's their home, that's their comfort. And that's why we see some black police officers doing some heinous crimes against other black folks. This isn't the first time,
No.
but I was truly disappointed, not only to hear about a black man who was killed by police officers, but then to discover that those police officers were black.
So that, I hate to say it, but honestly, it blew me away. I'm watching the story and then they put the pictures up there and I'm like
Yep.
clutching my pearls. What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It was
five
it was
black men.
surprising. Not but one white guy came up and used a taser gun, while they were beating him. And he wasn't arrested, but today he was released from the Memphis Police Department. But this is all part of the dynamics of this story. Each of these things are unique. Breonna Taylor, coincidentally, she has the same birth date as Tyre Nichols. I believe it is June the 5th, 1993. I put it on my Facebook earlier. We were
Hmm.
talking about it earlier on Black Radio. I like to listen to. But here we are in another situation. Black man dead in custody of the police officers. And this time there's no evidence that he did anything wrong. He was complying. He did what they told him to do, and they took turns punching him full speed. And now to discover that some of I don't want to insult the fraternities because they have nothing to do with this, but
This
just
is
to
true.
discover that some of them were part of a black fraternity, and then to come out and do that, it convinces me the world has truly changed
Hmm.
over the decade, and it was tough to watch. If you cannot stomach it, I don't encourage you to watch it. I don't think kids should watch it, but it does leave you changed. Now realizing if I get pulled over somewhere and it happens to be a black cop, I'm no longer safe.
Okay, I don't care what the cop looks like.
It's that
Make sure there
blue
are people close by.
that blue shield, because as a client told me, they don't see black, white, Hispanic, Asian. They just see a perpetrator,
Hmm.
and they're part of a group, and they're going to protect that group, and they're going to fit into that group. And many of them have anger issues. And let me tell you, I saw it on that video.
Yeah.
So it leaves some people traumatized. It's triggering a lot of the trauma that some of us experienced during George Floyd. I remember Rodney King. Let me age myself.
I was young, but I remember, can we all just get along? That's what I
I
remember.
was
I
in
remember the
undergrad. I
videos
was in
before
college. I
cell phones videos
and
were out.
and we thought, and that's when they had the big camcorder. You
Mm-hmm.
have to somebody grab
Because
one. It was
somebody
new.
called it right.
Yeah, and the police officers were charged and they were found not guilty.
Mm.
And so here we are again, with the situation. So that's what I want to ask, even members of the audience and you, Aisha. How do you know when this type of exposure is creating a harmful response,
Well,
something similar to PTSD?
outside of it creating a harmful response with the trauma and with some PTSD, is also creating harm. Just when we were thinking about us, okay, so I'm gonna go back 2 years
Sure,
ago.
sure.
You and I did an interview with a police officer.
We did.
Yeah, you remember that?
I remember
John Dargan.
face
He
to
came
face in the
on the show.
studio.
Sure did, in the
Mhm.
studio. And I remember one of the things, because he was a little different because he was a preacher as well.
That's correct.
And one of the things he noted was that it makes it hard for them, himself, and the good cops when they're trying to do the best to show that, look, we care about the community, we want to keep you safe, and then somebody else comes in and does some stupid, and
Yeah.
now everybody else is afraid of them. He also said that in addition to that, it puts them in danger, and they're already in danger being police officers. But when people are so mistrusting of the police, as soon as you pull them over, they're ready to shoot, they're ready to run, they're ready to run you over with a car because they think that you're going to kill them.
Yeah.
What I do know is that Officer Dargan recently retired,
Okay.
and that was part of that. Things have become too dangerous for police because people coming at the police coming at people, and things. It was just too much going on.
Yeah, so he was labeled one of the bad guys
Right.
because there are so many, and when they do bad stuff, it's bad. I've heard it all from a client who used to run. He was a teenager. He used to run from police officers, and I was like, "Why are you running?" well, because that's just wasn't a response that I would have if a police officer walked up to me and asked me a question. He took off running, and he looked at me like I was an alien. And he said, because they're gonna beat me up and take my money and take my phone. And I was like, damn. I also heard from another officer who talked about when his partner and other police officers, when they would respond to domestic violence incident, and he would end up putting the boyfriend or the husband in jail. The partner, who was male, the police officer's partner, would go back to the house when he got off work and had sex with the wife. I was like, what? Because they all knew the girlfriends or the wives were vulnerable
Mm.
during that time and would take advantage of them and make some promises to them. And then the partner would come back and tell the other guys, and then some other officer would go by the next day to check on the woman to see how she's doing and end up having sex with her as well. Those are the stories I have heard about police officers. And it is scary. And some of the things that I've heard from the clients that I talked to was some major anger issues. But it's unfortunate, like the police officer we had on the show years ago, he has to deal with that,
Yeah.
being labeled something that he's not. But I remember him, he told us, he said, you need to comply.
He did, because
He,
he said that he also knew police officers who were doing too much.
yeah, yeah. So that is unfortunate that yeah, that badge, the blue shield, whatever they call it, it supersedes everything else. It makes you forget where you come from,
Yeah.
and when they steal money off people, they share it with other police officers. So that stuff you see in the movies, it is real.
Hmm.
But now here we are having to deal with these images, the video, and even, in the past, I've never been stopped a whole lot. But now, if it was a black police officer, I was never concerned. But now it's like, what's the damn difference between them and the other police officers?
So there's not the only outside of the one we interviewed. I've known another police officer, and when we were younger, we were in our 20s and he was a police officer. He used to brag about, and it's funny that you had a teenager who said he would run,
Yep.
beating a teenager. He passed out, and when the I mean, like beat him till he was knocked him out. And when the boy got up, he act like he was taking care of him, like, "Oh boy, you fell and hit your head on the concrete." No, he would tell this story like it was nothing. Now I won't
Mm.
tell exactly where he is, but what I will say is he has now, with us almost being 40, he has moved through the ranks and he is very much at the top
That's how you do
of
it.
the pole.
That's how you
He
do it.
was never a good cop. In addition to that, before he was a police officer, he was a drug dealer. But now he is, yes, but now he is at the top of his game in the field.
So the
So
question is, what do we do when the police officers are the demons?
what
When
you
the police officers are the ones who will harm you, beat the pulp out of you, hit on you for sex after your husband beat you up. What are we to do now, knowing that there are police officers out there who are not there to serve and protect us? That's the question I can answer to.
what is I would say is not just now. They are police officers now, but thinking about black men doing that to other black men and having some semblance of power just has me thinking about an overseer attitude.
Same here.
It's just like the overseer. You
So
know, you
tell us
used
what
to
an
be
overseer is
so an overseer for the
historically.
historically is another slave on the plantation who has been given a little bit more power than the other slaves to make them do things so that the master doesn't have to do too much. He could beat them. He could have whatever woman he wanted. He
Yep.
got more food. He got more benefits. He had power and thought he was better, but in the end, he was still just another slave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, if he did something, he could also be beat
That is
and
correct.
murdered and replaced. But
But
he will
but but
forget sometimes that he was black.
absolutely, and he was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
He coordinated things with the
Yeah.
other slaves. He or she was usually the house Negro is the term that they use. And there was a movie, Django Unchained, with Jamie
Oh,
Foxx,
yes.
and the
They put a little
character
comedy to
played
that.
by Samuel L.
Samuel
Jackson.
Jackson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he that shows you that example, and you can fast forward more to the present time, and companies that were traditionally white, manufacturing companies, service oriented companies, and they have a lot of black employees. They would put a black supervisor
Middle
in
management.
middle management in charge because that black supervisor would mistreat the black employees. He or she would become the new overseer. He doesn't want to lose his job. He makes a little bit more money,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows and understands the black folks who are there. So there are many cases where they terrorize the
Yeah.
black employees. So now we got the police officers
Yeah.
as the overseer brutalizing us.
It's just a lot that I mean, there are so many moving pieces here. Because another thing that
Yeah,
comes to my mind is the police chief there in Memphis. I just learned that she used to be in Atlanta and had some issues while she was in Atlanta
she
as
was
well.
fired.
Is that what happened? I see. I knew you would know more because you're from, to keep it with Atlanta politics like that. So remind us, Harrison, why was she fired? What did she do?
So I read it on news online. There was not a lot of details, but something about a botched um, investigation. That's the term that they use.
Okay.
But she was fired and years ago and moved around and went to Memphis and has moved up in Memphis. Coincidentally,
How you get fired and just go somewhere else and move up?
police officers and teachers.
Well, I mean, like,
Uh,
you know what? It's the same way that people lose their kids in one state and go move to another state, and
Yeah.
people act
The
like they weren't
the
ever bad
Catholic
parents.
Church, they've been doing it for
Yeah.
centuries. But the funny thing is, while the police officers were beating up Tyre Nichols, there was no supervisor there in charge. The training of the police officers was not comprehensive to allow them to be out there by themselves without any supervision. So there's a lots of questions about the structure, the organization at Memphis, and so there's a lot of fingers being pointed at the police chief. I don't know if it's fair or not, but there is no reason. There was nobody there to stop them to say, "Hey, this is too much," And then finally, when the other police officers showed up and the EMT and they talked to him a little bit, took a while for them to show up, and they didn't really give Tyree the attention that he needed. So there's a lot of, like you said, moving pieces to this,
Yeah.
a lot of dynamics. But now, us,
Hmm.
we have to deal with it. Let's talk. Let's
I
talk
mean,
to
you
us.
definitely do now that you watch the video, because I'm
It's
still not gonna
horrible.
watch it.
It's
I just
horrible.
I can't let that in my spirit and in my head.
It's horrible. And I watched Game of Thrones every season and saw the brutality of that show, but
It was like, this is worse
I knew it
because
was
this is real.
fiction.
Hmm.
But when you see someone holding someone's hands behind their back, standing up, and another police officer swings at him and his neck snaps back, and you
Oof.
can see him wobble, and he does it twice, then that's when
You
I'm like,
know
oh,
he's weaker than you physically. I
he's a
mean,
skinny guy.
legally, you all are the police. You have all the power. You have all the physical strength. You have the numbers, which also I'm thinking, how did 5 police officers
A
get? Now, first of all,
gang.
that pisses me off anyway when I see somebody get pulled over and then here comes another police car and here
A
comes another police. Why are
gang.
all of y'all here?
But apparently he stopped. Tyrese stopped when they pulled him over and they all ran to the car, a couple of them yelling, cussing, and yanked him out of their car. He kept asking, "What did I do? What did I do?" And that's how it all started. So coincidentally, there are some questions about a couple of the police officers and whether or not this was personal.
Okay, so I was wondering that too, and is it going to come out later? Because I also know that there are some police officers who do that, pass on tag numbers, coming after certain people for different things. It's like somebody calls their cousin who's a police officer, and my cousin's gonna get you. What's happening that we don't know?
So uh I know someone
Okay.
who's a police officer and he and they're all talking about it.
Yeah.
And he heard through the grapevine that one of the police officers uh ex-girlfriend had known or had gone out on a date with Tyree. I said, now, is there rumor or is there some fact behind that? He said, right now, there's some evidence to show that he
Mm.
knew the girl and that they're all about the same age. Memphis is not a huge city,
This is
you
true.
know.
It's
And,
not big. They know each other.
and as I watched the video, I wondered that as I
When I
saw
heard you telling me, I thought that, like, that sounds personal.
there was one ringleader and the others just jumped in. There was a couple of ringleaders. One of them was particularly brutal to him, and I didn't understand. The man had on handcuffs. He was on the ground, and you're still kicking him. You're still telling the other guy to hold him up, and you punched him while his hands were behind his back. I was like, something is not right here. They're doing more than trying to arrest somebody. There's no drugs found. No drugs in his system. I have since found out he's a photographer. He likes to skateboard. He likes to watch sunsets. It's a little bit confusing, but when you add that extra element, which is a rumor, I have to say that, it does make you wonder, was all this over a chick?
When you told me what was happening, I wonder if all of this was over a chick.
Hmm, An
Because
ex.
guys do stupid stuff.
I agree with that. I agree with that. So
And,
let's
and the,
have.
fa- the fact that three of them were in the same fraternity made me think
Mm,
that he called his homeboys.
isn't that peculiar?
You didn't just call
Peculiar.
a bunch of police officers. You called two of them who were your frat brothers, and the other two who were your homies. And who knows, maybe they were
Yeah,
hoping
and,
to get
and
in
they,
a
they may
grad
have
trap
wanted
or
to be a
something later.
part of it. They
Yep.
want to belong
Mm-hmm.
to the little group,
They sure
They
did.
want to be one of the bros,
Yep.
and they got the blue uniform on,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But to swing us back around, let's talk to some of the listeners who are having some issues stomaching and processing some of this, because a lot of people they don't understand about trauma, distress in the body and how it responds, and more importantly, what to do, I think before George Floyd, I didn't have a problem watching some of those videos whenever it happened. George Floyd was tough to watch. I was really uh, unhappy that my daughter saw it. That caused a lot of conversations. But now I'm hearing a lot of people are feeling troubled by
Mhm.
this. What can you tell us? How can people recognize when they're truly having problems with something similar to PTSD?
So that's a difficult one because I can say be on the lookout for symptoms of anxiety. But the truth is, anxiety
Yeah,
has been going up for a while anyway because of COVID and because of
you're vulnerable.
politics. So be on the lookout for the stuff we were looking out for before, and be on the lookout for changes in appetite and sleep. But oh, guess what? That's been going on too
Yeah, yeah,
because of everything that's happening. I could tell you to be proactive, but we've learned in the last few years to be proactive about everything. Be proactive about your money, be proactive about your housing purchases, otherwise you'll lose out on it. Be proactive when it comes to the police. I hate that this young man pulled over where there was no one around. Because I have the only time I've had many police come up, it was because I was speeding or
hmm
missed a light or
hmm
something. But
yep.
when they tried to pull me over, I kept on driving. You're not gonna get me over here. And
So you
there's
got into a
nobody here. I'm
safe
pulling up
place.
close to some. I don't care if it's 10 police cars. There will be people around to see what all 10 police cars do. But you're thinking, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yep,
So
yep,
maybe they're pulling me over because I missed the stop sign or something. It can't
yep.
be that big of a deal.
Yeah, yeah. Surely he sees that I'm not armed, but maybe I should tell him. But I'm looking at him like this happened to me years ago. Why is his hand on his gun? He hadn't pulled the clip yet when I
That
ran
happened to
through.
me too.
I ran through a red light. I did it. I know, and I deserved a ticket, and I paid it. But let me tell you, that was scary as hell. As the police officer walked up from behind my car with his hand on his gun, I'm like,
I
what?
think about that too because I was mouthy when that happened to me
I
because
was
my
not.
my sorority frame was covering the expiration sticker on my
I
thing, and
see.
he was coming up.
Yeah.
And when I rolled down the window, I said, "What? Well, what happened?" And he said, "Your frame was covering the thing or whatever." And I said, "Did that require you to put your hand on your gun? Like, why are you coming up on me?" Like, I was real mouthy. Today, I mean, that worries me. I totally could have been shot,
Yeah.
because he was young and he looked like
Yeah.
he was scared. And if I
Was
had
he
moved
black or
too much,
white?
he was black.
My officer was black too, and he asked me about running the red light, and I said, "Well, I have a different approach. Like, are you sure I ran the red light? I
I
knew
was
I
just like,
ran it,
"What?"
but here
And
we
in
are.
fact, I was like, "I got a screwdriver right over here in the glove compartment. Can I just get out and unscrew it?" I mean, like, I just didn't care. That was dangerous
Yeah,
looking back on it.
yeah. Nowadays, we have to be fearful of police officers, and as long as they're wearing that uniform, they're all the same.
Mhm.
I think it's time for us to stop making assumptions that because they might look like us or we have some shared ancestry, or maybe they're from the same neighborhood, it doesn't matter. They're all going to act the same way with that. And I liked all the things that Dr. Aisha talked about. Pay attention to your anxiety, but it's been there for a while
It
through the
has.
through the pandemic. Some depressive thoughts, your mood changes in your mood, whether it's up or high. Your thoughts and inability to control your thoughts, or maybe you just can't stop thinking about it. Definitely, if you watch the video and the scenes pop up in your dreams, that's another sign. You mentioned appetite, whether it increases or decreases, but a total shift in your mood, that is certainly something that you need to pay attention to.
And even when I'm thinking about anxiety, I worry that people are going to be trying to think of other ways to protect themselves. Because what I
Yeah.
have heard a lot from in the Black community is that if I'm being robbed or if something's happening, I wouldn't call the police. I'm like, really? You wouldn't? What would you? Because the police will kill them and me.
Yep. Yep. You
I
got to be
mean, I guess
careful
you're right. So
because
what do
they
you do
may.
now? You just buy a gun, you kill them yourself?
Yeah,
What do
but
you do?
there's a reality. I've heard from people. You call the police, they may think that you're the perpetrator.
This is
If you
true.
call that someone's breaking into your house or your car, and you standing out there with a cell phone in your hand, they may think you're the one who caused all the problems.
And they do, and they get confused. Oh, here's another story. When I was in my 20s, I had a little townhouse, and I don't know what was happening somewhere in the neighborhood, but the police knocked on my door because they heard there was a disturbance in the house, and I was like sleepy. No, there's no disturbance here. They knocked the door open like they were coming to save me, and then all of a sudden somebody else was like, "No, it's this house," and then they walked out. But already knocked me down and ran to my house and everything.
Yeah,
It's
so
nobody
we
here but me.
have a comment from a listener. These officers that were caught are the typical black officers in the nation. Damn.
Mm,
Very few are in it to protect, serve, and change. Well, damn, Black Pat. That but you know
the
what?
man.
That's a reality that we may need to face. I'm still holding on to Officer Friendly when I was in the third grade when they used to come talk to us at my
Right.
elementary school and
Mine
get a
was a
little.
friend of mine's dad. He used to come talk to us too about
That's what they
drugs
that's
and
what they called
stuff.
them, Officer Friendly. And so, but now it turned from Officer Friendly to, oh, those particular officers, I better watch out for that, to now it's like all of them. It doesn't really matter, but that is a strong statement.
Very
Um,
few are in it to protect, serve, and change. Well, Black Pat, if you're still here, why do you think they're in it? If they're not there to protect, serve, and change, is it just for a paycheck, or
yeah,
is it to beat people down and get their
Yeah, put it in
frustrations?
the chat. Let us know because you seem to know a little bit more about that than we do. All I know is some of them are scary as hell,
Hmm.
and I don't want to come up against them. Now we got to be cautious, if we get into a car accident or we get a traffic ticket, now we got to be cautious. I remember going to a church program years ago where the police officers came out and told us what to do if we ever stopped. It's a black church, and
Hmm.
and it was insulting, the things that they told us to do. Yell out the car with our hands out the window, tell them I'm not armed, tell them I'm not resisting. And I'm like, but I've never had to do that before. Why do I have to do that? When there are other folks who yell at the police officers, they curse them out,
They
you
sure
know,
do.
and they don't get harmed. Some of them may get arrested in an extra ticket, but we got to fear for our lives, and I think that is completely unfair, and I don't want to do it. But we're gonna have to face some realities
Hmm.
that are out there. So let us know, Black Pat, the man. What are your theories behind that? But I do encourage everybody to protect yourself. I watched the video because we were doing this show, and I have some clients who want to talk about it. They're being triggered. It's bringing up some past experiences, and it's heightening that anxiety you talked about. Because it was just simmering and manageable now until the video. And some of them, they have sons, black sons who are college age, and they worried about them. So
Hmm.
I had to watch the video. But if you don't have to watch it, don't watch it. It's not good. It's horrible. And I think I missed the last 5 minutes of it. I just couldn't stomach it. It's
How
hard.
long is it?
Well, there
Well, that
are
5 minutes is a long time. How long is this video?
each officer had a cam, the
Okay.
video on, and they
Mm.
showed it together. And then somebody's home security on their house had a camera right over the whole thing. It was a wide angle, and so you get to see the whole thing as opposed to a little narrow shot. Trying to wonder, what is he doing? The widescreen view sees it. So the whole thing's almost an hour.
So
Um,
that also kind of debunks the myth that arming all of the police officers with body cams is going to cut down on police brutality. Mm.
and no, I almost cursed. No, they didn't give a
That's
damn.
what body cams are for.
Yep,
Excuse me.
that's
And
that's why I
and
wrote.
dash cams. It's supposed to make
Yep,
police not do stupid stuff because it's going to be recorded.
they
And
didn't
so
care.
then it's like, okay, these five black men were extra ignorant.
They
You
didn't
knew
care.
you had a whole camera. You had cameras on, and you just
They didn't
what
care.
you had cameras on, and what did you think that the system was going to protect you? Again, you forgot you were black.
Yep. Yep. And they don't care, and they can get away with certain things like stopping somebody for no reason and then beating the crap out of them. And even afterwards, when more police officers showed up and the EMT, they were all casual. They were out of breath. They were bragging about what they had done. So it was all of that, made me even more fearful. Even if I do complain, what are they going to do about it? Even if there is a video, you know, they don't care. So I suggest to everybody, if you don't have to watch it, don't watch it. It's horrible, but we're going to have to continue these conversations in the Black community about how do we deal with police brutality and somebody targeting us like a bully, like a gang, when possibly we haven't done anything wrong. Even if we have done something wrong, we deserve to get a ticket or get arrested. That's it. We don't deserve to
Depending on what
die.
you do. Right. We do not deserve to die.
And who's the black woman in Texas? Sandra Bland. She
Yes.
died in custody of the police. So these are just some examples that are out there.
I thought about when you told me that he had the same birthday as Breonna Taylor.
Yep,
My sister and I talk about after you get to 365 people, at some point, somebody's going to have a few people are going to have the same birthday.
yep,
Which
that's true.
we've had enough black people die because of police brutality and because of racism and a bunch of other stupid stuff that at this point people are going to start having the same birthdays.
I
Seriously,
I,
the
I
numbers have
agree.
gotten too high.
It's peculiar, and it's stirring up some conspiracies that are out there. And I know people who are into the numbers and what they
Okay.
mean, and so it's like a sign for some people. But nevertheless, that is a reality that is out there.
Yeah.
So, any final words for our audience and dealing with that and being triggered, and whether or not they should watch the video?
I'm still gonna say don't watch the video.
Don't
But
watch it.
also if you have, now you need to do something to take care of yourself and get yourself back in a relaxed, stable mental position, a place that's not as negative and aggressive. That's what I meant. All that aggression and hate
Yeah,
getting into your head through your eyes. It's time for you to do something to
and it
get
stays
rid of
there.
that. I mean,
Meditate, and I heard something new over the weekend. Healing circles. You
I
know,
saw something about healing circle today.
check it out. I haven't heard of it. I've never done it. I'm not promoting it. I just read about it, and it sounds like a great idea from what I read on the internet. And there's some places in Atlanta that are doing it. One place in particular is just for black men. They have
Okay.
circles just for black men. I tried to get them on the show tonight, but they did not get back with me. But you're right. Self care is important, and protecting your spirit, protecting your peace. And now we got to protect our bodies.
And
Uh,
women maybe don't date police officers either, because they
and
might
fi-
hurt you. They might hurt somebody that you date later on in life too. Apparently,
and finally, I heard some sad news today about a very popular radio DJ. I know you know him, Aisha, because he's from Alabama.
mm-hmm.
Ricky Smiley's son. I believe his name is Brandon. That's
Brandon,
what I
mm-hmm.
read. Yeah, he died. There's not a whole lot of information about it,
Yeah,
but boy, when I looked at those videos that Ricky Smiley did, I think he did two. That last one, he looked awfully sad.
yeah.
He looked broken. So I want to send out my condolences to Ricky Smiley. Isn't this his second child? He's something
I don't think
a
so.
daughter who was caught up, was shot
I don't
years
know.
ago near a club. I didn't do my
Oh
research.
yes, yes, yes. I do remember, but she's alive. But yes, I do
Oh,
remember her being shot
mm,
and
thank you.
when she was in college. Hmm.
Okay, okay.
You're
So
right.
she survived. Okay, so
Hmm.
he kept talking about, and I agree with him. No one should have to
Yeah.
bury a child, and I hope Ricky, you're taking care of yourself, because that last video you made, you did not look good, brother.
Right. The
You could.
first one, it was like it looked like he was strong for everybody,
He
and
was.
it's hitting them
Well,
now.
the
I think.
second one, he admits, he said today feels different.
Hmm.
And he mentioned depression, and he can barely get his words out. So Ricky, take care of you and your family. You don't have to share all of this on social media,
Yes.
because what I saw, you needed time to yourself. So either way, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. I'm talking about racial trauma, police officers, police brutality, some realities that are out there. They're not pretty realities, but it's not in our best interest to be delusional about some of these realities. We got to come up with a plan. We have to know what to do if we ever stopped by a police officer. And I believe Dr. Aisha and I, we're here to say it doesn't matter if they're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, that blue, that uniform is all that we need to see. And these can be dangerous times out there. So that's my final word on it. We've been watching Two Therapists and a Microphone. I am Dr. Harrison Davis.
And I'm Dr. Aisha Dickerson.
We will see you guys next time, Monday night at 7 o'clock p.m. See ya.
Like this.